I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. I have with me actually one of I think somebody who totally exemplifies what a Vistage chair should be, and the energy that she brings to her community. Sue Tinnish, and Sue is somebody that I've known for, I want to say, like 2 years now.
That's about right. I think that's
Yeah.
absolutely right.
And Sue is out of the Chicago area, two groups, and I would love to start by hearing about, because you also have kind of a really diverse background. I would love to hear about your road prior to Vistage, and then what led you actually to being a chair of a peer group.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks. I'm glad to be here, Eric, and happy to share just a little bit about my background. I've had the luxury and the privilege and really been successful in a lot of different environments. So I started my career out in corporate banking, and I worked for several large, now all of them now global organizations, including Citicorp, Wells Fargo, and Bank of Montreal Harris. And from there, I went on to be an entrepreneur. And so I started my own consulting practice. And honestly, I was doing a little bit of juggling of raising my family, as well as staying active and still having a career. And then 2008 was happening. And so I had been getting emails from a college dean to come and teach. And I always thought I would probably teach at some point in my career. And so, given the economic circumstances, I thought, oh my gosh, this is a perfect time. So, I wound up teaching strategy, leadership, organizational behavior, and a variety of courses. And then ultimately, I became the dean. So, I ran an international school of business and also a school of hospitality management. Now, being a leader in that environment, I knew it wasn't going to last forever. I think there's a lot of consolidation that will still occur in academia. So I
Sure.
went to work for a small consulting firm. I did that for a while, and then ultimately, it wasn't really the best organizational fit. Sometimes in Vistage, we talk about how we can learn from our failures. So I use that as a good lesson moving forward. And I decided for a lot of reasons that this was the right point in my career to become a Vistage chair. And so those are the environments that I worked in before
And,
approaching Vistage and using my experience to facilitate meetings and also to impact the lives of leaders of small and medium-sized businesses.
and I think you're selling yourself a little short. You also have a PhD and an MBA, and I mean to have like your doctor chair.
That's true. That's true.
What is your doctorate in?
So it's an organization development. And I actually went back to school fairly, I say mid-career, but it was kind of later in life, if the truth be known. But it was just an opportunity for me to refresh some of my skills and just really rethink and just really relook at management and leadership in organizations. Because I got my MBA in the 80s, mid 80s. So when I went back to school in the 2000s, it was just a great chance to hone some new skills and become a doctor.
I I I think that's very cool, and even though there's a part of me that would love to do something crazy like that and just be like, oh yeah, now I'm gonna get a doctorate, but I don't think I would have the patience for it. I mean that is it's kind of a harrowing journey, right?
Oh, yeah. And they actually say enjoy the journey. So I was just talking with somebody that actually used to work for me, and she's starting on her PhD. And so it's just been fun to kind of rethink what were all the good and harrowing aspects of getting a doctorate.
I would love to talk to you about especially, comparing and contrasting your your work as an educator. And by the way, that's an amazing experience to have. I've taught marketing as well here in Denver, and not full time, but man, that's really gratifying. What was what do you see, like, kind of compare and contrast between being an educator and now being a Vistage chair? I imagine that experience is something that has actually helped you quite a bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a really interesting question. As I reflect on it, I think one of the or paradoxes, excuse me, of learning is that you want people to be both comfortable, and yet learning is being uncomfortable. It's
Right.
obviously, realizing there's a gap between what you know and you don't know, or how you act and how you do want to act. And so I would say that that is the first thing that comes to mind when I think about the parallels between the two. So in the classroom, I wanted to create an open and inviting environment and for people to feel like they were excited about learning something new. And yet there's the challenge is that you need to grow and you need to go from knowing nothing about strategy and Michael Porter's forces to
Right.
knowing something about it. And I think the same thing is true in Vistage. It's really about creating that inviting environment where people feel that they can be open and vulnerable and trustworthy,
And that
trusting.
they're not, and without judgment, safe.
Exactly. And yet, if people don't grow and change, then they're really not getting the full benefit of their Vistage membership. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. I think the second thing is just, having speakers. It's really about making sure people connect the dots between what they've learned either in a classroom setting or in a Vistage meeting to their real life and thinking, how can I apply this and make it really work for me? So I'd say that's the second parallel.
That's very cool. Speaking of speakers, who tell me some of your favorite speakers that have come in and just, if you're I've been a Vistage member for 5 years now, and you know that they're those ones that like stick with you. What are who are the speakers that really stuck with you?
Oh my gosh, there's a lot. So I think when I can quote speakers or when there's lessons that I am still taking away from them, that to me is the sign of a great speaker. So some that come to mind are David Friedman talking about culture, Eric Coriel, who's from the Midwest, who really talks about team dynamics and building strong teams. I think uh, Maura Neville, who talks about attention management's another one that comes to mind. Those are three that are top of mind for me. And Eric,
I
we got to get you to
Well,
come to
yeah,
Chicago.
and then yeah, get like I can have an Italian beef. It'll be great.
Oh,
That's all I want.
oh, you
I'm
know
I'm
Chicago.
I'm not a fan of your pizza so much as the, but man, the beef sandwich is incredible if you get it like just right. But but I digress. I've seen David and I've seen Mora, and
Yeah.
both A plus. Like, those are definitely two on my list who spoke to us, and that I actually legitimately the next day did something differently because of it. David's thing about, he had the list of not just your top three values, but breaking them down into like their teeniest, tiniest parts, and making that part of how you move forward with your team and into the market. It was really remarkable. He's terrific, and Maura is awesome too. I bought her book for everyone on my team. What's and sorry, I was going to go somewhere, but now I want to come somewhere else. You went, so you became a Vistage coach, chair. What was your experience with peer groups before you started as a chair?
Honestly, nothing really, nothing formally. Um, yeah. I mean, I was aware of Vistage. So one of my Vistage mentors is Dick Smith, and he's been sharing for a long time. And I remember when he first joined Vistage, because we actually, our careers overlapped a little bit. And when he left his business and joined Vistage, I thought, I'd really like to do that someday when I'm old. And so when I had the opportunity to think, what am I going to do? What is going to be the capstone in my career? I reached out to Dick. And after talking to him about his experience and what he did, I was like, I just knew right away, this is really what I want to do. I think I can do it well. And it's gonna feed me as well as me being able to bring something to my members. So I've known about tech slash Vistage for a long time.
Right.
I never was a member, but I always had it in the back of my mind that it was something that I wanted to explore doing as a chair.
And it's funny because I've talked to enough people at this point that I would say to me it's starting to feel like a 50-50 split where you've got sort of one group of people that, and maybe it's not 50-50, but you've got one group of people that wanted to do this because Vistage was so meaningful to them as a business leader versus the folks who are like, no, I've never done this on the other side, but this is something that I really want to experience for me. And I think that that's kind of cool because I would have come in thinking that a lot of chairs were doing this because of positive experiences that they'd had previously, and that's not always the case. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
What's your favorite part about the job? What's the thing that you get up and you're like, man, I can't. My day is going to be awesome because I get to do this.
Oh, I love the accountability of Vistage and I love helping kind of hold up the mirror in people's spaces and help them realize, either what they just said or what they need to do. I love designing the meetings. So this is sort of harkening back to my days of being a college
Sure.
professor, creating a positive environment, a meeting environment. That's great. I love that aspect of it too. Um, I love it when people say, wow, thank you, Sue. I hadn't realized that, or you really helped me see something from a new standpoint.
Absolutely. I can totally see that. Coming into this with a consulting background and a teaching background, how have you, how has Vistage made you sort of adapt your coaching style to best suit the needs of the members?
Well, as a consultant, you are the expert. And so
Right.
one big change that I've had to make is to learn to, zip my lip. Um, Personally, I like to be a smart person in the room, and yet being a coach and being a chair, that's not a requirement at all. And so I think what I've learned to do is listen better. I've
Hmm.
learned to ask better questions, and I've learned that it's not important necessarily to be the smartest person in the room. Those are the things that I try to remember every time I'm in front of my groups or when I'm doing one-on-one coaching with someone.
So speaking of not being the smartest person in the room and having the listening ears up and all of that, what's the best professional advice that you have heard given at one of your meetings?
I think that l- l- um, I think digging deeper, I think confronting. So this isn't necessarily a piece of advice, but just people, members urging other people to think about their motivation. Um, you know, as I think about that question, I think, another quick answer is just saying, where are your fingerprints in this situation?
Right.
That causes people to focus on what they can control versus, oh, it's always the other person. So I think that is really, really sound advice. And it served me well as I coach with people. and also just to make sure that when people are going to be accountable, that they're accountable for things that are under their control.
That's that is so poignant in so many ways. That is, and that's something that we beat ourselves up about quite a bit as business owners or executives. It's like, well, I had this goal and it's not going well, and well, okay, but what are what are the things that are happening truly because they're external influences that we can't control, that we have nothing, none of us have anything to say about the economy or the election or any of the other things that can have impacts on our business. We can't be accountable for what our competitors do or what our vendors do, but what are the things that we can do? What are the switches that we have to flip? And that's so important, and it's so easy to get buried in a bad situation without even taking that perspective. So that's awesome. So tell me about your groups.
Oh, so I have two groups in Chicago. I have a
Two
CEO.
awesome groups.
That's right. Awesome groups. So I have a CE or Chief Executive group, which I actually co-chair. A little shout out for my co-chair, Michael Ross. So we are the only co-chairing arrangement in Chicago, male and female.
Oh,
So
wow.
two for the price of one. So honestly, it brings a very different perspective to our members. And this is a long-term strategy for us. It's not really an exit plan on either Michael or my part. And so valuable for our members and also so valuable for us. So I have a chief executive group, and then I also have a trusted advisor group. Trusted advisors are a little lesser known of a group in
Right.
Vistage, but so powerful. And I just love interacting with them also. So I have a very diverse, great group of people in professional services, banker, uh, consultants, commercial real estate folks, just wide variety. And so they bring such great diversity, both to be a resource for my CEOs or within the Vistage network, but also a great resource to themselves, within themselves to help them be better at their craft, whatever that might be.
Excellent. If are there specific types of industries that you would love to add members from?
Yeah, so in my chief executive group, I think about two things when I think about the group. Obviously, we want the right kind of person in the group, so that's both a psychographic as well as a demographic. The group is runs businesses 5 million and over. So that's like one of the basic things. And the psychographics, somebody that's interested in learning,
Right.
somebody that doesn't think that they know all the answers.
You need someone that's going to fit the culture of the group, which
Exactly.
is obviously super important.
But the other aspect, and I'm now going to sound like a University of Chicago MBA, which I am, is to really think about the people as a portfolio. And so I like to have industries represented that are leading and lagging industries in the market. And the reason for that is because those industries, those sectors are going to see changes in the economy before others, and they can give insight or
Right.
awareness to the group as a whole. So I'm interested in adding somebody in the trucking, warehousing, 3PL industry. Packaging would be great. Another aspect is talent. So talent or staffing and executive
Yep.
recruiting. And again, they're a great indicator of what's going on in the market. Plus, talent is such an issue right now that it would be wonderful to add somebody with that specialization to the group.
Oh, people are struggling right now with managing that aspect, with the culture of the new generation that's coming up, and shortages and changes in the way that people want and expect to work. It's something that feels like it was always sort of the same when I was growing up and looking at the kind of world that my parents and my grandparents were living in, and then when I started my professional career. But now all of a sudden we've had this dramatic shift, and yeah, it's affecting a lot of folks. If there was an entrepreneur, business owner, CE type of person sitting in front of you right now, and they were thinking about that peer group experience, what advice would you give them about taking that direction and or not taking it? What would you tell that person?
Well, of course, this sounds quite biased, but I would say just do it. I mean, honestly, most Vistage members look back and say, oh my gosh, I wish I would have joined Vistage sooner in my leadership journey. So I think that, that sounds a little self-serving. I think the second thing I'd say, which may be a little less self-serving, is, what are you doing to invest in your own personal growth?
Right.
And if and so if you're not, I mean, a peer group is a wonderful alternative. And I think that I try, of course, to be really customized in my conversations with people, thinking about their specific, pain points or what are their challenges in business, to thinking about how Vistage can actually meet those needs. I mean, there's so many resources in Vistage
Absolutely.
that, there's really great opportunity for people to, um, not Chinese menu totally, but pick and choose those opportunities and that educational and development opportunity that best meets their specific needs.
And also for the other folks on their team, there's a lot of ways to get your team involved in various programs in Vistage that's super beneficial. One thing that I've seen is when I've talked to a lot of people, and and they know that I'm involved with Vistage and some other things, and they'll say, well, what do you get out of it? And I'll tell them how important it's been for me, and they're like, well, you know what, I'm really interested, but it's just not a good time.
Mhm.
And I'm like, if you think it's a bad time, if there's too much stuff going on, if you're feeling in over your head, it's like that's exactly the right time. That's exactly when you need the support. So, well,
No humping allowed. It sounds a little like high school language again. But, if you start thinking about your own leadership and how you want to develop and invest in yourself, well, after this is over, getting over this hump, you know what? There's always going to be
and
another challenge,
and
another
who's taking care of you?
good point.
You're
Exactly.
you're you're very often running a business is a really lonely job. So who is taking care of you and who is helping, there strictly to help you with your goals. And honestly, that for me, that's where my peer group comes in.
Nice. It's good to hear you've had such a great experience.
Well, very cool. Thank you so much, Dr. Sue, for joining me, and I really appreciate you coming on. What's the best way for if somebody wants to get in touch with you about potentially wants to ask about your group? What's the best way for them to find you?
Well, I'm always on LinkedIn. I believe in that as a great way to build my brand and to put out some thought leadership that I like to do as kind of a nerdy doctor. So you can find me on LinkedIn. There's only one Sue Tinnish in the United States, so it should be easy to find me. My phone number is 847-404-7325, or my email. I'm always on top of my inbox. Yeah,
Very
right.
cool.
Sue.Tinnish, no trick spellings, Tinnish at Vistage Chair, like the piece of furniture.com.
Very cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Good to see you, Eric. Thanks for inviting me on.
Anytime. Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.